A pleasant day, everyone. I am Rodilina Tado, together with my co-reporter, Miss Cherry Joy Cedilio. We would like to welcome you that we are now in Section 5, which is Large-Scale Student Assessment. And now we are going to discuss with you under this section, which is the Chapter 12, Understanding Large-Scale Student Assessment. Without further ado, let's start.
This section introduces large-scale student assessment, which by its name suggests a broader scope of student assessment to measure student progress at local, regional, or national level of established comparability across schools. At the end of this chapter, you are expected to describe the nature, purpose, and use of large-scale student assessment. Now, what is large-scale student assessment? This assessment is a program designed to improve student performance. It requires system-wide administration of standardized tests to schools. Now, we have a nature of large student scale assessment. First, this assessment is generally administering tests to huge numbers of examinees at the same time. Second, it encourages system-wide assessment of schools to determine whether the students are meeting the standards set for their achievements and provide stakeholders information for improving student assessment. Now, large-scale assessment has been referred to literature using different terms. First, we have system-wide assessment. It suggests the participation of all schools which are part of a system. Second, we have standardized testing. It suggests the consistent manner and conditions in the administration, scoring, and interpretation of assessment tools. Third, we have certification testing. It suggests a specific purpose of assessment. And lastly, we have large-scale annual assessment. It suggests frequency of schedule school assessment. Now, let's moving on to large-scale assessment and classroom-based assessment. Assessment concept behind large-scale assessment are closely related to those of classroom-based assessment. Now, large-scale assessment and classroom-based assessment can be both designed and the use of a norm reference assessment and criterion reference assessment. Classroom-based assessment is for ranking and comparing students in class. On the basis of their test scores, students' overall standing in class is known and reported as part of their grade. Likewise, to large-scale assessment, it is used in norm referential approach in ranking schools within administrative district, divisions, or region in a country using some descriptive statistics. Content of large school-based assessment and classroom-based assessment tools are both aligned to the curriculum and specific learning outcome. With assessment of learning as a primary purpose of student assessment, the main source of test content are the intended learning outcomes within the context of subject matter areas in a prescribed curriculum of the school. Large school-based assessment intended to gather information across target schools or regions in a country. Its main concern is to monitor the status of student achievement in specific areas such as reading, writing, and mathematics. Similarly, classroom-based assessment aims to do the same but only within a class using the intended learning outcomes for an instructional period. Involvement of teachers in the preparation of the assessment tools. Although large school-based assessment involves a greater number of teachers in the development process, both levels of assessment rely heavily on experienced teachers in selecting the instructional outcomes to be tested. The teachers, more than any other stakeholders, need to agree on the pertinent learning outcomes to be assessed. Planning the task context takes a formal convention of teachers across various parts of the country together with other curriculum experts. In classroom-based assessment, a classroom teacher may seek a an advice of his or her peers in determining content of a summative test that may administered to one class or two classes of the same grade level in the school. Now we have selected response format. Like multiple choice and binary choice items are commonly used, these two test types lend themselves efficiently to objective scoring, reviewing and revising of items through item analysis, and establishing psychometric integrity of the test. With large school-based assessment being administered to large population, use of machine scoring for multiple choice items facilitate fast interpretation and release of results. Many countries employ independent testing centers or agencies to carry out the task of development, administration, scoring, and interpretation of large school-based assessment paraphernalia. They have computer facilitates to oh, or they have computer facilities to handle complex statistical analysis for large databases collected. And this is not concern of classroom-based assessment. Assessment is more focused on cognitive instructional outcomes. Both large school-based assessment and classroom-based assessment, without fully intending to be so, often measures those learning outcomes that lead themselves to testing formula. Example, selected response and constructed response types. Performance-based formats, which can be utilized to assess non-cognitive behaviors, are less frequently used for this purpose. This is actually a criticism received by standardized testing as applied in large school-based assessment. As educational theorist was quoted saying, standardized tests can't measure initiative, creativity, imagination, conceptual thinking, curiosity, effort, irony, judgment, commitment, nuance, goodwill, ethical reflection, or a host of other valuable disposition and attributes. What they can measure and count are isolated skills, specific fact and functions, content knowledge, the least interesting and least significant aspect of learning. There is some truth in this allegation or observation, especially considering the great majority of standardized tests designed for large school-based assessment in different countries, measuring mostly competences in language, reading, science, and mathematics. However, with the right intent and resources, assessing psychomotor and affective behavior for large school-based assessment is no longer far from happening. Classroom-based assessment now dives on this type of non-test assessment. In fact, current assessment reforms applied in classrooms give emphasis on authentic, performance-based, and portfolio assessment for learning outcome focus on problem solving, critical thinking, and creative thinking. Let's proceed to the use of large-scale student assessment. Large-scale student assessment for certification and admission is practiced in different configurations by educational institutions all over the world. Some LSA or large-scale student assessment programs make use of high-stake testing which defines a student's entry or non-entry to a desired advanced level. First, we have grade-level standardized test of achievement administered at major transition points which students have to pass before proceeding to the next higher level. Second, examination given by secondary schools before graduation to certify students' readiness for college level. Third, senior student taking a national achievement test for admission to state colleges and universities in Asia requires passing a standardized entrance exam, and the obtained score determines the course or campus the student can enroll in. And the fifth one, admission to graduate programs in most universities in the US requires passing a qualifying examination. 6. Certification of second language proficiency required by many higher education institutions from non-English speaking applicants. Monitoring and judging progress of student performance for evaluate purpose and research. First, we have many countries use national examination as their barometer on how their students are performing along desired competencies in different subject areas at different level across time. Triggered by policies initiating standard-based reforms in education to improve student performance. At the international scene, there are standardized examinations developed to monitor changes in educational achievement in basic school subject over time. Another use of large-scale student assessment is that standardized tests have also been developed for screening and diagnostic purposes. This is not the end of our report. Miss Cherry Joy Sedilio will continue.